That's what we currently need. We need the community to start representing Magento as a brand, because Adobe refuses to represent the brand Magento right now. And I've been talking to them for a year, to Adobe people, and trying to get them to clear out that message and stop saying Magento is now Adobe Commerce, which is a false statement. Magento Commerce became Adobe Commerce, but Magento Open Source still is Magento Open Source.
Magetalk is a podcast about the Magento community. Magetalk is brought to you by Future Commerce, a podcast by Philip Jackson, the original brains behind Magetalk itself, and by MageChat, a private community that I started for the Magento community, as well as other sub-communities. I just said community way too many times. You can check that out at magechat.club. Thanks so much, and on to the episode.
Welcome to Magetalk. This is episode 237, and my name is Willem.
And I'm Kalen, and we're diving right in. I'm going to pull up the doc. You did I want to commend you for your work on the doc. I took a quick peek at it, and I just have to figure out where to find it now. But it looks like you...
So much has changed between episodes. This is the fourth one we're doing together now.
Is it?
Is
it only the fourth?
I think so.
I think it's the fifth. I want to say it's the fifth, but I'm
okay with that.
I'll review the records, and we'll verify that.
We'll set that straight. Like all the other mistakes that we've made so far that we're going to set straight.
That's what we do, man.
At least I learned that I was right about the fact that Kimberly Thomas started Meet Magento New York, and then Ignacio with Interactive 4 took over later, and then Eric Hillman with Mage Mojo, and now it's in the hands of Krish.
There's a very long and winding backstory to the hosting of Meet Magento New York, which we will not get into.
It's got history.
It is a fascinating historical artifact in the Magento community. And aside from that, it was just a good time. I had a friggin' blast.
So what swag did you bring home? Anything particular that I might be looking at right now?
The answer to your question, okay, so you do see. The answer to your question is this is literally the only. I decided up front I was not going to carry any bags. I was not going to carry any shirts. I was not going to carry anything. So they gave me the bag when I checked in, with the thing in it and the flyers, whatever the bag has. Okay.
You threw it out of the window into the water.
I almost did that, but being as environmentally friendly as I am, I was going to get some coffee, and right away, right off the bat, right? I'm trying to get some coffee. I'm trying to start getting my network on. I'm trying to settle in, and now I have a bag, and I have to do coffee with a bag in my hand. So all I did is I said, let me just set this down. I went ahead, I sent it down on a ledge by one of the columns around the thing. And I said, maybe I'll pick this up later, maybe I won't, And then in the end, I didn't. But here's the thing with the socks, by the way, is that they fit right in your pocket. Because I also said, I don't want to do a backpack either. Carrying a backpack around with a laptop and a power cord all day long gets old, and
It's not you got to work during the day, during the conference, like.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I
often had that, during the conference, you had this emergency call as a developer working at the agency, or just want to quickly do something.
You have actual work to do. You have actual thousands of developers using your stuff. You have a team. You're hiring people. You're dealing with things. This is why you're having an impact, which is great and fantastic. And I prefer to post memes and, keep it simple, But
And
you've got to have both. You've got to have both. It's
and
not
get
either
a
or.
get sophisticated discussions between extension vendors and agency owners.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm about
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. 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 That's gonna be interesting.
Sweet. But I love the socks that you're wearing. They are from Hypernote, by the way. Let's just call them out.
They haven't paid for that. They haven't paid for that mention yet.
Well,
what we need to do.
They let Ilana, their support manager, head of support, they let her join us to New York, and she was fantastic.
I love Ilana more than I can describe. We had a lot of deep conversations, as well as some conversations about tech. We had about 90% deep personal conversations, and 7%, we talked a little bit about some of the support stuff and some of the hosting stack stuff.
Series breakdown.
What's
97, you're giving a series breakdown, and 90% and 7%. I'm already curious about the remaining 3%.
No, 93. Okay, so 93.7. 93.7 is the breakdown, and so so which is the perfect ratio for a conference. It's the absolute perfect ratio. The mistake people make is talking business too much. You want to limit it to 7 to 9% tops. That's my official recommended ratio. So
you go there, you're talking to someone in your head, you're like 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Yeah, check. Stopwatch.
Yeah. I'm like thinking, this person just broke 25%. They don't realize that I'm never going to talk to them.
I don't
ever
like
again.
this at all. I don't like this at all. This is not a nice person.
Yeah, they don't realize that I just blocked them on Twitter and LinkedIn in my head, and the relationship is over. You know. No, it was such a blast, and then I was like, I gotta do more of this. So then I was talking to Ignacio about I was trying to pitch him on MageChat, if I'm being completely honest, and he's like, what are you talking about? You're insane. I've been doing community my entire life, and you want to start this and you want to charge people. And I said, listen, what can I do for you? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, how's everything going with the conference? Good. Da, da, da. I go, I'm going to get you a sponsor. You give me $50 and I am going to get you a sponsor. So I posted, then Walmart ended up replying. A few people were replying. Hopefully that works out on LinkedIn. And then as I was thinking more about it, I said, I got to go because I don't know. I just think it'll be fun. I got my wife on board. So we're about to buy the plane tickets. And
I'm on the same bandwagon. I've pitched the idea to my wife. She's gonna come to Madrid. I thought the event was in Barcelona before, but yeah, I'm gonna take my wife. If I'm coming, then I'm coming together with my wife. Yeah.
What, bro? But not your kids, right? Okay. Me and you are having dinner together with the wives. Just the two of us. Nobody else comes. Just the two of us. Right?
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
So, but here's a question I have for you, okay? Because people are broadening out to other platforms. We're aware of this. The company that acquired Ignacio does a lot of Salesforce, right? Which is upmarket. That's how these things tend to work out. The upmarket people acquire the down market relative to them. So, and I was talking to somebody in the Mage Chat thing on Friday who's doing Salesforce stuff, and they were talking about some interesting things about it. It's a super closed platform, which is a whole other thing. But what from your perspective, right, as Hyvä, I still can't say Hyvä to you with a straight face, despite the fact that you gave me an official endorsement to do so.
Because deeply inside I don't mean it, but I'll allow it.
That's it. That's what it is. The problem with saying Hyvä is I still don't feel like I'm pronouncing it correctly. Like when my wife's name is Angelica, right? When people say Angelica, yeah. When people say Angelica, which they do because they want to try their best to pronounce it as correctly as possible, but they just can't quite vocalize it. I actually don't like it. I would prefer they say Angelica. Yes. So anyways, that's what's going on in the back of my head. But here's my question, right? Is that you're Magento or die, which I love. I love that about you and about the vision and about the mission. What's your perspective going to a more broadened out conference, right? Are you trying to win people over? What's that?
I'm gonna knives out, gonna paint my face. Gonna...
yeah. Shank a few people. But is it more about connecting with the Magento people that are there? Is it more about, do you see yourself bringing people over from other platforms? Like, what's your perspective there?
It's new, so I can't really tell yet how to work out. I do applaud that Ignacio is doing this. I think it's a natural thing that we're diversifying. I, as a solution provider or as a building a product, I choose to work with Magento only, but I think it makes sense for a lot of my customers to have multiple platforms they work with. So getting as much people as possible in one place and just talk about commerce and everything around it. Yeah. And have some discussions about when to use which platform is meaningful, learnful. Yeah. And I mean, Magento is still the best platform out there if you want to self-host your code. I want to have like the ultimate customization, and it offers a lot that other platforms don't. It's just we need a little bit more corporate backing for the open source version, and that's something we're working on.
It's the understatement of the century, which that's awesome.
I look forward to seeing all of those people that would not come to the Magento event anymore because they made a switch, and it's kind of awkward to go to a Magento event. But I can't say I love any of those people less because they switched.
100%.
So seeing them back will be like a high school reunion.
Yes.
And an opportunity that I will take.
I think that is I'm hearing this I heard the same thing from Ignacio, and it's the same feeling I have. There's a nostalgia that we have to connect with people that we were once connected to. I think there was a time when if somebody left Magento, you felt like you lost somebody. And in a sense, you did, in the sense that you weren't going to see them at the conferences. You weren't going to be talking about the same things online. You weren't going to be connected as much anymore. And I feel like what I want to sort of do is sort of find ways to connect with each other. And we're all solving the very similar problem. The Vue storefront guys, I'm in love with. And Philip Bartek, and I know that you did your webinar with them. You obviously have a ton of respect for what they're doing. They're in a different space.
I consider Philip and Bartek friends. Absolutely,
friends.
100%.
That's what it is. And there are other scenarios where there are people who move to different things, or all of a sudden they have different strategic competitive interests, and then it can sometimes it can sometimes make it hard to work together. And that's sometimes a reality of business and whatever. But yeah, I don't, Vue storefront is not in terms of my business interests, it's very much on the periphery, but it's something I think is cool, and I think they're cool, and I just want to hang out with them and stuff like that. So,
but I mean, they are platform agnostic, so
totally,
they fit in everywhere.
They do. I believe that they're fairly heavy into commerce tools as far as what their backends.
I mean, the customer
tend to be.
base is still 90% Magento because it was the first thing they released, and if you saw from one, the first version of the product only worked with Magento for the longest time, so they have like, I think literally over 90% of the live stores are on Magento. Yeah, I'm sure that they're focusing on other platforms and would definitely prefer to have more diversified customers, I guess.
Yeah.
Or platform.
Yeah. And it's like you said, everybody's touching different platforms in one way or another. Even you, that's quote Magento only, right? You're interfacing with people that are, like you said, there's agencies that are customers of yours that touch other platforms, and you have relationships. So, I
go to Shopware events, and people are like, "Oh, you're gonna bring Hyvä to Shopware?" I'm like, no, not necessarily. Why are you here then? It's like, because all my friends are here. There's a lot of people here that I just like to see, and last weekend, I just came back from the MageUnconference in Cologne, in Germany, and half of the organizers do Shopware now as well. Claudia works at Shopware, and I discussed, like, at the end of the event, I asked her, like, please, will you do this again next year? She was like, yeah, it kind of felt like it would be a conflict of interest, but I feel now during the weekend that it's a good fit. Like, we can learn from each other, and it doesn't feel strange to be here. So I hope they will continue to do that.
I think that being friends, it sounds, in a business context, it sounds so secondary. Like, it sounds like, come on, guys, we're here to do business, but I think it's a massive part of what makes our, whatever the community is, whatever this all is. I use the phrase as the scattered tribes of the Magento community. Whatever the thing is, like, it's a big part of it, and it could be 70% of it. It could be 40% of it. Like, there's something intangible there that. If you were to tell somebody, I'm going to this event in Germany where half of the people are doing shopware, and I'm going there just because my friends are there, they're going to go, come on, dude, like, just come on. What are you doing this for? What's your business interest for doing this for? And you go, no, literally, like, it's fun. I want to hang out. We'll have some interesting conversations. Yeah, there are some Hyvä customers there as well. That certainly doesn't hurt, but like, it's just a cool. It's just a cool thing. Like, to me, the magic is in that intersection between work and the personal, the friendship, the networking, the having fun, the dancing, Sana on the dance floor, she's, that was dope. She's such a good dancer. And, just all of it combined to me is what kind of the magic is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today, man? We got to start making some progress through this doc.
Yeah, so I guess we said enough about Meet Magento New York. I mean, we could go on. Just mentioned, came back from the MageUnconference, which is nice. It's this very big contrast between a Meet Magento and an Unconference. Unconference is very, much more personal connection with people. It's like a big coffee break with some improvised talks in between.
I'm dying to go to one of these I've been fascinated by the whole German Unconference thing for years now.
And I think really that the German one really stands out because the group of people there is just extraordinarily welcome and Yeah, they've been doing it for such a long time that it's very organic. And I think the concept has been a bit complicated to replicate. I know that the Netherlands has had one or two MageUnconferences, and it just had
you don't have
different...
to always make it about the Netherlands, man. You really don't. You can just
it had a different atmosphere. It was different, and people were somehow less enthusiastic about it. Now, Jisse Reitsma was at the conference in Germany last weekend because I think also he's been there before, but he was now there, I think, with a extra interest because he's planning on doing a MageUnconference in the Netherlands next year in June. So he especially wanted to be in this edition, I guess, to see what makes the conference special.
Dude, I was this close to getting Jisse into Mage Chat, and then I got to talk to him because I have to. The whole thing is a failure if I don't get him involved. So that's a tangent. But I haven't seen him in a long time, man. He's such a warm guy, and obviously doing some. Yeah,
it's nice. It's nice to see that you can more or less sense that Jisse has decided to get a little bit closer to his roots and get back into the Magento, really stepping a bit more firmly back into the Magento. I mean, he has always been in Magento, but he was diversifying a bit. And I think that he's realized that the community can use the extra attention, and now that this whole revival is happening, that more can be done in the Netherlands event-wise. So he's stepping up, seeing if we can do anything with the Dutch community. We have our own Dutch Slack, but it's currently unmaintained, and
I'm familiar.
It would be good. It would be good if there's a new initiative that would represent or would shepherd the Dutch community. And Jisse, he's setting up an academy. He's starting next year, like a Magento Academy, really training junior developers, going to universities, so promoting Magento development at universities. So that's a really cool thing. And he wants to do more events, really Magento specific. So that's a big win.
That's super cool. I'm curious to know, and I mean, I wouldn't have asked about this if you didn't bring it up, but because I remember him, I feel like I remember him getting interested in shopware and maybe doing some trainings or things like that on it. Mm-hmm. What was the, what exactly is the shift that you're talking about of going back deeper into Magento? Is it the events thing specifically, or was he not seeing the demand in the shopware space? Because that's a common thing.
No, I don't think. I think Jisse, by nature, is someone that goes for the underdog, and he can shift directions very quickly. Like if everyone goes left, then he's like, "Well, I'll go right." One, because it's controversial, and I like that. But two, that means left gets enough attention, I'll give attention to the right. And then when everyone leans back to the right, I'll go back to left.
I like that. That.
I think he was just interested in expanding his horizon and doing the shopware training stuff. He recorded the official shopware training videos, I think. So he did that for shopware, so they paid him to record those. For Magento, he's always recorded his own trainings and just sold them as an online training. He did that for Hyvä as well. But that's right. I mean, he hosted Reacticon, and Reacticon was
he's the training goat.
And he did a lot of front-end technology training, but also education with his events. So he did PWA trainings, Luma training, a few storefront training, Hyvä trainings, all different front ends.
Yeah.
And ReactCon was always quite neutral, like giving enough spotlight to all the solutions.
Yeah.
And now it feels like he's consciously stepping back to really do something for the Magento community specifically.
That's cool, dude. I'm so
because that's what we currently need. We need the community to start representing Magento as a brand, because Adobe refuses to represent the brand Magento right now. And I've been talking to them for a year, to Adobe people, and trying to get them to clear out that message and stop saying Magento is now Adobe Commerce, which is a false statement. Magento Commerce became Adobe Commerce, but Magento Open Source still is Magento Open Source. So the Magento brand still
I think I may have just found my clip for this episode. But I'm so excited about the Magento community movement. I think that there's always been this tension between community and corporate, and it's been sometimes better than others. It's never perfect, and nothing's ever perfect, and there's always going to be things to complain about. But there are times where it can be bad to a point. It's like any relationship, right? It's never perfect. You're going to have ups and downs, but there are points at which the downs are so far down that you're not going to make it. And I'm not saying, I respect what you're doing of working together, and I think it's important, and I think that ideally we are going to find a way to work together with Adobe, and I think that's really going to be better for everybody. But I just like the self-determination, like the idea that we can have the self-determination of doing what is right for the community and the customer base and the product ultimately. And that, we want to work together, but we're going to go from asking permission to doing the thing and seeing if they want to be on board. And that
so we're doing
is
the
gigantic,
we're doing the things that we don't need permission for. No, I mean, it's like, it's not necessarily that we're looking to go against anyone, because that comes with a lot of negativity, and fighting against the current is just senseless.
Listen, man,
I want to stop. I want to stop complaining and stay in the negative
totally.
on these topics, and just see wherever we can do what's within our own control. Yeah. And that's building a website that tells merchants what Magento is.
Yeah.
And if no one else does that, we as a community need to build a website to explain merchants what Magento is, what the features are, what the pros and the benefits are, and how it compares to other platforms, including Adobe Commerce.
100%.
And if we don't get that messaging from corporate, then we do need to have that message, because we are selling Magento on a daily basis, and we need representation for that brand. Yeah. And we as a community are big enough, wealthy enough, there's enough money going around, there's so many people working with it. If we just combine forces, and if we just join forces and take all of the positive aspects and work with that spirit, and we do it together, then we can do, the sky's the limit. We can build anything we need.
Yeah. Having met you in person for the first time after God knows how many years, possibly a decade knowing you online, you are so extremely soft-spoken, on video and stuff. And so, in person, I see that you are very, what's the word I'm looking for? I understand why you are a good leader, and you're very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's funny to me. Like, I know it's all genuine, but I just think that you're very mindful of how you communicate. And I think you communicate really effectively, but like you're much more, Sorry, I didn't mean to make this so awkward. You're like a strong dude. You're like I know what I want. I'm gonna get it done type of a guy. And so anyway, that was just a weird meta moment. I will say that
It was definitely weird. Yeah.
that was weird. Sorry.
Summarize what you just said.
It's like you said that you've said yourself, I'm a politician. You have said in your own words, you're a politician, right?
Mm.
Right.
I mean, I'm on a board of directors on the Magento Association, so that I think that means you're doing politics.
Yeah, 100%. So all I'm saying is that you're good at what you do. All right. On the Adobe, I will say, like I said, I have my rants against Adobe and everything like that, but I ran into a bunch of Adobe people in New York. It was so cool, man. Oh God, I'm blanking. I want to say his name's Harrison. The guy does payments, and I ran into him. Super cool guy. Really enjoyed talking to him. He did a post afterwards on LinkedIn saying that he had been hearing about this whole Magento community for a long time, didn't quite understand what the hell it meant, and that he kind of experienced it for the first time, and he kind of understood what that magic was about or whatever. And yeah, man, like I'm doing a meetup here in Austin in a couple of weeks. There's probably going to be some Adobe people. So I think that I think it's great. And sometimes the interests can be out of alignment, and you got to figure that out. But we're all just people trying to live our lives and trying to make a buck, and so yeah, man, like we'll figure it out. There doesn't have to be so much vitriol all the time.
Yeah, it's really hard to convey this, like make them feel what this community is about. And if I tweeted last weekend that orange is not red, it's genuinely like there's so much emotion and passion in just the color orange and the logo and the hexagon and everything that we've built up in the past 12, 13, 14 years. How much is it? And it's just...
That's what a brand is.
It's non-transferable. Transfer.
Yeah, that's what a brand is. It's a logo or an image or a thing. It transcends the logo. It transcends that, but the color is a part of it. It's something that people identify with and love and appreciate, and that's what makes a brand.
It's almost offensive to read Magento's now Adobe Commerce. I mean,
that's 100% offensive. It should say Magento Commerce is now Adobe Commerce. 100%.
And that's a fact. And they could go as far as renaming the open source product. They could have done this. I mean, they could have killed the Magento brand also on the open source.
They would have been within their rights. They would have been within their rights to do it because they did acquire the thing. But they didn't.
We wouldn't have had a Meet Adobe Commerce in New York. We wouldn't have had an Adobe Unconf last weekend. It's
100%.
not transferable. We don't identify with that color. And that doesn't mean that we're hostile. That doesn't mean we can't work together. It doesn't mean like we cannot be one community.
Dude, I, at one point in the third iteration of Commerce Hero, I changed my colors to black and red, partly because of the Adobe thing and partly because I just kind of liked the colors and I just wanted to do something different. But I'm not going to lie, it was partly because of the Adobe thing. And I actually feel guilty about that. Like, not even joking. I feel, in hindsight, I feel weird about that. But yeah, so the color thing is a funny thing. And these are
It's
all...
just hard to explain why this is so important for us, why Orange and Hexagon are so important for us, and why we need to have orange socks and mugs and T-shirts and
There's a fanaticism. There's a fanaticism to the community, which is part of what
it's like telling your church that they need to get rid of the cross and make it a circle.
Right. Hey guys, welcome to church. We're going to make some tweaks. We did get acquired recently by the
Pope now has a red red outfit.
We're the crosses. We're keeping them in, but we're just not going to use them here. You can use them in other contexts. That's a great example. And these are religions. Like I keep saying, these are all mini religion. Like these groups that we're in are mini religions, and religions can be good and they can be bad. And
and I want to stress again that Adobe is doing very good things for the community and for open source, and so they're still investing in that, and they had announcements at Meet Magento New York about the open source contribution thing, and they're making the right decisions on the certification expiry. So if you haven't heard or read, they were about to invalidate or like expire all of the existing Magento certifications by this December. And you would need to do a full re-exam, recertification to keep your license. But they decided to postpone that to mid next year, I think to June. And they're going to have like a program to keep your certification up to date without doing a full certification. Which is the right thing to do. Like, I've always thought like they should have either have said like the certification is bound to the Magento version at the time that you take the certification. So I'm Magento 2.2 certified, and I can do I could do an update to 2.4 or 2.5, whatever, when new versions come out, or like have you update your license, and gladly they now seem to have chosen to do that. So there's still a lot of good things coming out of Adobe for the community. So I'm still grateful.
I mean, 100%. Here's the thing, man. They're investing real dollars and cents into it. Now they may not be making all the decisions we want them to make. And we may have things we disagree about, and money isn't everything. It's far from everything. But they're putting real resources, into this thing. Now, you may say they're doing it because they have to, and they eventually want it to disappear and whatever. You could say that. Who knows if that's true or not. But you have to respect the fact that they're putting real dollars into this thing, which we'd be worse off if they weren't. And, some people are like, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Some people get angry about us, what do you want to call us, pro-community guys or pro-community fanatics. Some people, Philip Jackson, get angry that we are complaining because we're biting the hand that feeds us, right? And I know a thing or two about feeding, a child, and if they're not grateful for that, or if they're complaining, you're like, dude, like, you want to not eat tonight? What's the deal? But giving you some insight into my parenting style. But so that's a reality too. That's a reality too. It's it's not all black and white. And
I mean they're dedicated to keep supporting Magento, and they have so much stakes in the platform. They have enterprise customers building huge stores on the monolith today, and they will support them for many more years than they would probably like. There's rumors that there's still Magento 1 enterprise customers just chugging along.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that 100%.
It's they will keep doing Magento open source and supporting it and offering PCI compliance for that for a long time. It's just that their main product vision is different from that. So it gets love, but it doesn't get the love that you need to make it an innovative product that has like a roadmap with new features or whatever. All features will be focused on microservices and fit into their cloud offering. Right. So we as a community can fill that gap and build our own new features on the platform. And they're not against that. Like if we have discussions about that with their leadership through the open source task force or in other forms, then they say, well, great. So if something great comes out of MageOS, then we can probably take that and put that upstream into the official Magento product. So please go ahead and show us what you can do there.
Let me say that. Let me ask you, why do you have? I think I know the answer to this question, and we can get into as much detail as we want. But is Hyvä compatible with the Enterprise or whatever the heck they're calling it these days, Commerce Edition of Magento?
Not the full feature set. So we've waited with that until we had full open source coverage and built out a team to the point where we're satisfied with its current state. And we have one big release coming up with some newer libraries. So Alpine and Tailwind are being updated in the upcoming release, and then we fully shift focus to the commerce features. Now we have plenty commerce customers running Hyvä. Some commerce customers don't even use any of the commerce features. They literally just install open source.
I was one of those customers. I was in-house with a merchant. We didn't use, I don't think hardly any of the enterprise features, but people want to have the support license, they want to have indemnity, that kind of stuff.
And some people like to put it on Adobe Cloud, which these days I have to correct myself. I've said when we talked about Damien's solution, I said Adobe Cloud still doesn't scale. It scales. So that's a great evolvement.
I can't let that statement go unchallenged. What do you mean that it scale? That it does true auto scaling?
It does true auto scaling. That's what Igor
really? Meow meow. You don't have to email anybody. It automatically auto scales and downscales.
So let's get Igor on the podcast and have him explain all about it. I just know that he responded to a tweet about what was it about again?
I'll ask him. Yeah.
They had an announcement. They had a presentation at New York where they showed performance improvements with 10,000s or 100,000s of orders in an hour. And someone asked what the architecture was or what hosting it was running, and it was running clouds, native clouds from Magento, Adobe. I
will say I got Igor's getting into Mage Chat, which I'm really excited about, and so we'll ask him in there, get into some details in there.
So
I know Damien's
people take a commerce license. They take it for the accountability, to use Adobe Cloud, and we're all compatible with Adobe Cloud. We have plenty of customers running that, but we don't have the full feature set yet. We have a public feature matrix which you can look up on our website, and we've been working quite long with Aware Digital agency in the UK that has been building out the Adobe Sensei live search and product recommendations. And that's almost finished, I think. And we got help from the Adobe team there. So we had a couple of calls with them. And they're super supportive to help us become compatible with commerce. It's just we're getting started with that whole project to get full feature coverage this month. So Fina is going to start working on that this week. I'm going to get started with that later this month. So before the end of the year, I'm expecting to have a lot more feature coverage there.
Do you think that when you do have, let's call it full, I mean, in some sense, like you said, you're already compatible with Commerce Edition. I still want to call it Enterprise. I hate calling it Commerce Edition, but whatever.
It's the enterprise version of the product, so for me that makes more sense as well.
That makes more sense to me. I mean, this is all commerce. Like, what are we talking about? But anyways, if so, so in some sense, you already are compatible. You already have customers, but let's say when you got to the point where you had, support for all the features or a lot of the features, right? Do you think that corporate would endorse Hyvä, whatever that means? Do you think that they would? Do you think that they ultimately see it as a competitor, or do you think that they would, want to push people to it because it's a good product that could support customers that customers would love? How do you think they perceive it?
So they currently see more and more demand, and they get questions about compatibility.
Yeah.
So it was good to hear in New York a couple of Adobe people endorsing Hyvä one-on-one, and them saying that they want to look into it more closely to offer some level of support so that when a question comes that they can properly answer yes or no, it should work or shouldn't work, so they can officially confirm that it's working on cloud. One of the other things that they were interested in was doing some performance tests to see how well Hyvä's running compared to Luma and maybe even PWA Studio, just to have the business case internally so that they can take it into their, maybe even into the sales process. But at least from a support perspective, from a support perspective, they're interested in getting a bit more hands-on, because now all the agencies, they build up the knowledge themselves. And Adobe generally has a policy of stopping their support level once third-party extensions get involved. So if you have any question about the third-party extension, they will say you have to get support there, and we don't. So they don't really offer support on that.
Right.
They might look into Hyvä and give that a little bit more official endorsement, but it will depend how it turns out. Your question, if they would see it as competition, I don't think at all, because currently we're selling commerce licenses, so people
really
use Hyvä to. I mean, I'm not personally selling, but people are buying enterprise licenses, Adobe Commerce licenses, to use Hyvä on their platform. So I don't know. Awesome. Hyvä plays a role in the decision process to use Adobe Commerce at that stage. Yep. And the more that would happen, the more sense it makes for them to be positive towards Hyvä.
By the way, as I'm asking this question, I'm thinking it through, and the truth is that if they did want to start to push people to you, they would eventually want to acquire you, and you cannot, under any circumstances, allow that to happen. At least for like 10 years. I'm not too eager
to let that happen. I've talked to people from Gene Commerce.
I'm familiar. I'm familiar with the situation on the ground. By the way,
I think it's most healthy for Hyvä to. Yeah.
Quick shout out to Gene Commerce. I had a fantastic time hanging out with Matt Parkinson.
We both had. I was at the same table.
That's right. It's funny because you came and sat down, and I was like, this is amazing. I want to spend the next 2 hours talking, the four of us. And then I had to go to the bathroom, and then I got involved in another conversation. I didn't come back for like an hour. But the British sense of humor is, there's just something special about it that I love. And anyways, it was a blast. but yeah, we're familiar with the whole Bluefoot thing. But actually, I have heard, and there was a long time where the page builder thing, I think, was just vaporware. It was this odd thing that it was a great product that got converted into vaporware. But I've heard recently that a lot of people say the page builder is actually pretty solid. I've heard that from several people.
Yeah, it differs. One person loves it, the other doesn't.
Do you guys integrate with Page Builder, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. It's a bit hard to customize the Page Builder and build your custom elements for it because it's heavily engineered as most things on Magento frontend are.
And by the way, sorry, I keep interrupting you, man. By the way, going back to the whole nostalgia community thing, Dave McCauley is going to be at this meetup next Thursday. He's at Bold Commerce now, and so so yeah, man, I'm just pumped about Eric Erway, by the way, who everybody I talked to recently is like, dude, I miss Eric, and he's going to be there too. He's at cart.com now. And I guess they do logistics or something. I think they're basically a SaaS vendor into e-commerce, right? So I'm just
isn't it actually
Anton
a full
Krill
e-commerce platform?
No, it's not an e-com platform. Honestly, I don't quite understand it. He told me he said that what's on the website is a little different from what their primary thing is, but Anton Krill is going to be there too, which I'm pumped about. He's at
this is literally, if I go to cart.com, there's a section in the header that says storefront, and it says build an online store with limitless customization.
Honestly,
I'll stop here because I'm not here to promote any other platform than Magento, logically.
I agree. I want to officially retract that.
I will give Eric some love. He's done Eric. So much for us as a community.
Eric. Everybody loves Eric.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even realize the extent of it until recently, sometimes you don't appreciate what you have until it's gone. And I think that was part of it. Like I've been talking to a billion people recently, and his name just keeps coming up, because we don't have an Eric
what you got
Erway.
Till it's gone.
That's it. We don't have an Eric Erway current. We don't have a Ben Marks, and we don't have an Eric Erway. My goal is to be the new Ben Marks, so we'll see how that goes. We have a few things in the works. But we don't.
That the MA is taking Eric's place more or less. Eric had pre-knowledge of the community and the ecosystem, and already
he cared. You could tell he cared.
The product and everything.
You could tell that he cared.
Yeah,
and he had his own internal stakeholders. It's not like everything that you wanted to happen he could make happen. But you just could tell that he cared. And that's not always something that you get with every point of contact you have at corporate. It just isn't. And so
I think Eric gave a lot more in his role than was asked from him,
100%,
from his employer,
100%.
And he really worked for the community.
100%. And again, that doesn't mean that every single thing we wanted to do, he was able to get done. I mean, he wasn't the CEO of Adobe or whatever. He wasn't the chief commerce. He wasn't the Lonnie Stark, but you could just tell that he cared and he did everything he could. And so I'm super pumped about hanging out with him. And so
there's one more short topic, which could be potentially a whole episode topic, but I'd like to just...
I go over 3 hours today, to be completely honest with you. I got nothing else scheduled.
I can't, but I just want to breach the subject and then continue the subject later when I have more information. But a lot of people might be wondering, there was an announcement at Meet Magento New York about the open source contributions that will be managed by the Magento Association, which currently is the result from the open source task force that we had at the Magento Association. And this thing started out a year ago when the task force was created, and we started talking about what open source and the community needs to make it thriving again and to make contributions possible again. And that ended up with LTS and STS, that whole plan that then never saw the light because it was just a too big project. And I've talked about this in a previous episode that Adobe's reasoning was if we don't do one
Can you still
distribution
hear me?
right. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna walk to the other room, but I can still hear you, and I'll edit this part out. I can still hear you. Sorry, go ahead.
Adobe's reasoning is that they would rather manage one code base right than do it with two. So LTS and STS was supposed to be one version that had long time support, which would be the backing for Adobe Commerce, and then there would be one community version that was owned by the community and had short-term support, which would move a lot faster and allow us to create new features and have pull request merge much quicker, where community would have had a full control. Now, in the end, that didn't seem viable to Adobe, and to be honest, it always looked like a really difficult plan to actually execute. So there were a lot of details still missing from that plan before understanding how viable it was. So now the newer version or the newer plan that's been pitched to Adobe and then accepted by the association is to have like a voting mechanism where the community can vote for which features and pull requests will be merged into the Magento core code base. As me being part of the Magento Association, I'll be involved in what shape that should take and how that should be worked out, that plan. And there's still a lot of question marks there. But so far, what we know is that Adobe is going to give resources to have more pull requests merged if we prioritize them. But there's still a lot of questions up in the air that I give to Adobe to learn what the nitty gritty details are before we start promoting this. So I'd like to find out like how many resources Adobe is going to commit and who's going to do the final reviews and doing the merging of pull requests, and are we going to get a certain amount of hours every month that engineers will work on pull requests, or
I heard
is it going to be like one pull request every month? Because then it's a bit of a
I heard, and I there are birdies that talk to me from time to time. It was not you. There were multiple birdies that talk to me, and I will sometimes share something that I heard from a little birdie, and it's a judgment call. But I will say one of the things I heard was that there's no one internal at Adobe who is working on Magento itself anymore. It's outsourced to some company, and everybody essentially internal at Adobe is working on the microservices side of things, which if that's true or not, I don't know. But I could understand the rationale behind it if it were true. That's the future direction of the product. It is what it is. But that's kind of an interesting thing.
Development, yeah. What we know is that all of the commits or the merges are currently being done by an external company.
So that's publicly available information, right, on the GitHub?
Yeah, you can see that from the commit history.
There you go.
We have an automated channel in the MageOS Discord that lists all of the commits every day, so you can see what happened on the upstream Magento code base. And you can look at all of those requests, and they're not being merged by core engineers from Adobe. But that doesn't mean that they're not working on the code base internally. It's just the open source maintenance on GitHub is not being done by core engineers at this time.
Right, and
that doesn't mean they don't have developers working internally on Magento anymore, like security, performance improvements, like their own development could still be happening there, but the maintaining of pull requests is being done by external company.
Yeah, so we don't, and I mean, if the external company is good, then that's okay. You know what I mean? If they were outsourcing this to like a solid agency, like I would actually think that was kind of cool. But it depends how, at the end of the day, how good that team is.
Jordan Web Services, right?
I hear good things about Jordan Web Services. I mean, if they were Elgentos was doing this, I'd be like, hey, let's go. I don't believe Elgentos is the company on record, but so anyways, it's an interesting development. If it is true that no one at corporate is working on Magento, right? That if in fact that's true, we don't know if it is or not. That's sort of an interesting development, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, the important thing is that there are resources being spent.
Correct.
And for this particular thing, like the community ownership, it's super important for me to know what resources will be available for this, because if it's not that much, then it's not something I can get particularly enthusiastic about, because one pull request every month wouldn't help.
Yeah.
If it's 10, it's the beginning.
Yeah.
If it's a lot more, then we can really clean ship, like we can really get rid of a lot of pull requests that have been dormant for 2 years and auto-closed with some GitHub bot.
Right. What's happening now is that we're in a negotiation, and the best types of negotiations are collaborative, and you don't when you're in a negotiation, if you are only asking permission and you're not prepared to walk from the table, you're not in a very strong position. And what's changed with MageOS, with everything that's happening, is that we're getting to a point where we're prepared to walk. We don't want to. In an ideal scenario, we find a happy medium. But to be completely honest, the counterparty can't take you seriously if you're not prepared to walk. And so that's just the nature of the beast. So
the thing is, we don't need to walk. Like we can stay exactly where we are.
I agree.
We can have
I completely agree.
Alternative distribution that works in harmony with the official one.
Totally agree. I totally agree.
I totally agree. So right now you can just switch between MageOS and Magento, official Magento, by changing one line of code in your composer file.
Right.
It's exactly identical.
Right.
Code base. And then we'll start working on a different distribution that will have extra features or performance improvements and all of this stuff. But we'll take care to make sure that you can still switch between versions. Right. And it means we can stay exactly where we are. Like agencies would be able, if a merchant says, I don't need like the cutting edge, I don't need that version that is maybe 10% faster but doesn't have official support by Adobe, then they can switch to the Adobe version. And we can go for many years.
That was beautiful how you just threw that in. It's maybe 10% faster, but I'm not interested. But yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you that again, the ideal scenario is that we find a happy medium. But it's like you're saying, like the question is, okay, we're talking about pull requests, we're talking about resources, we're talking about voting about what's going to get included. How much are they going to give us? How much are you going to, at some point, they got to give enough. Are they going to give 100% of their resources towards this? No. Are they going to give 0% of their resources toward this? No. So we need to find a happy medium so we can all move forward together in love and joy and friendship. But it's
They're
like you're
definitely
saying,
looking how to help us and how to
Totally.
satisfy our needs.
Totally.
I can't tell them how much is needed to get the community enthusiastic about this.
Exactly.
But
That's
would
what it's
need to
about.
be quite a substantial amount, I think.
That's it.
To really get things changing, really get things done there, so that people actually start to feel like this process is working with them and not against them. So the whole barrier to contribute should be removed, and people should be wowed by the fact that their pull request was merged within a month.
Totally.
And
100%.
and
100%.
then you can build trust. Like people will change their emotional relationship towards contribution.
100%. And I mean, we have in the community, man, we have smart, extremely smart and prolific devs that are essentially ready to volunteer their time to do this stuff. So it's kind of like you've got essentially an unlimited supply of motivated talent to fix all these problems for you if you would just... Now, is it non-trivial for them to sort of allow the community to... I don't know exactly where we're at currently in the whole, what levels of permissions does the community have to merge things into core, but
that community maintainers that prep pull requests, do reviews, check the code quality, and give feedback. But then for every release, it's Adobe people. There's so much work involved with a release that they do internally. Like as soon as they do a freeze on contributions and start prepping a release, they do all of this.
There's too much manual work. There's too much manual stuff.
Well, they do a lot of performance tests and yeah, there's a lot of.
You guys do performance tests in your automated MageOS packaging deal?
We once we start building our own distributions, that would be an important thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are going to have. I mean, you guys are going to have that quick, and it's going to be all automated, and it's going to be all GitHub Actions, and it's going to be cool. So, what they need to ultimately do is allow that to make its way back into the mothership, because it's just the right way to do it. And anyway, so we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, we'll have more updates on the contribution developments.
Yeah.
I should be hearing pretty soon what resources they're making available, and then if that's appealing, then we'll be looking for people to get involved with the task force that you already have going. Now that we know what the real purpose is going to be of that open source task force, now we've defined the mission, which is setting up this voting mechanism and determining how that
right.
will look in practice. We're gonna need people that are very close to the contribution process, that perhaps are active maintainers or used to be maintainers, and they can get feedback. They can give feedback on what we need to have in place in terms of processes to make this successful. So we'll be calling for maintainers that want to make a change, want to make sure that the community gets the right code into the core code base, which pull requests, etc. So yeah, I think it's still it's still an exciting thing that will have some form of control over the code base.
Totally.
I'm not sure yet what level of excitement to give it.
All right, moving on. Now that we've beat this dead horse, final segment, and then I'm going to let you go. This is a new segment of the podcast where we all know that on Twitter you have to have a PTHML Twitter name. Okay, this is something that was started by someone who will remain nameless, but I have been pushing for this, And what we're going to do in every episode is we're going to name somebody who has not yet corrected their Twitter profile. Today, that's Alexander Galzo with Atwix, who I hope we're going to see in Madrid as well. We'll see about that. But I'm currently seeing on Twitter that he does not have the PTHML in his Twitter name, and that needs to be resolved. So that's a new segment.
I really love where this whole Twitter handle thing went. Started quite trivial, but it really elevates my mood when I browse Twitter and I see people using the .html, and even if they use something else like .xml or XSXD, whatever,
it's fun.
It's just fun that it's connected people. Like, it's nice. Like, you can see this is my people.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Willem, thank you, sir.
And
thanks,
free.
everybody.
It's free. It doesn't take anything. You can just go to Twitter and change your Twitter handle. It's not your handle, it's your name, right?
Your name. Just change your name. It's a requirement. We will be eventually. There's a grace period. We will eventually be kicking people out of the community if they don't comply. So that's a given. But but yeah, get in there.
And it shows that you care.
It shows that you care. So it shows what team you're on. It shows what religion you're in. This is a religion, and you will be excommunicated if you break the rules. And we do have it. And we do have a deity at the top of it. Okay. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
See you. Thanks for listening.
The recording. That was fun, man.
Yeah.
Quality.